Airports were supposed to be places of transition. Spaces where everyone was temporarily equal, shoes off, bags open, names reduced to boarding passes and seat numbers. But equality had a way of evaporating before the plane ever left the ground. Gate 47 was crowded that afternoon. Rolling suitcases bumped into ankles. Screens flickered with delayed departure times. The low hum of conversations blended with the sharp beeping of scanners and the distant roar of engines outside the glass. In the middle of it all stood Eli Thompson, 14 years old, slim frame, backpack hanging loose from one shoulder, a hoodie pulled halfway over his head not to hide, but to feel smaller, safer. He clutched his boarding pass like it might disappear if he loosened his grip. Eli had flown before. He knew the rules. Stay close to the gate. Don't touch anything. Keep your headphones low. Don't give anyone a reason to look at you too long. But that last rule had never really worked. Because people always looked too long, too carefully, like they were waiting for him to confirm something they'd already decided. Across the gate, Captain Richard Hawley noticed him immediately. He had been flying for 23 years, thousands of hours in the air, a reputation for discipline, control, and reading people. That's what he told himself. Anyway, his uniform was immaculate. White shirt, 4 gold stripes, Bathoria stitched into every seam. As he scanned the crowd, his eyes paused on Eli, the hoodie, the way he stood alone, the way his eyes kept flicking toward the security desk. Captain Hawley frowned. Something about the boy didn't sit right with him. He didn't know what. He didn't need to. Suspicion didn't require evidence, it only needed comfort. Hawley leaned toward the gate agent. Has that kid been cleared? The agent blinked. Sir, the boy, Hawley said, nodding. Over there. She glanced at Eli, then back at Hawley. He checked in like everyone else. Hawley didn't move, didn't relax. Call security, he said quietly. The agent hesitated. For what reason? Hawley straightened. Protocol. That word had a way of ending conversations. Security arrived within minutes. 2 officers, hands resting casually near their belts. They walked straight toward Eli. Eli felt them before. He saw them. That instinct, the one his mother had warned him about, tightened in his chest. One of the officers spoke. You step away from the gate. Eli froze. I'm boarding this flight, he said, holding up his pass. Now, the officer repeated. People turned, eyes lifted from phones. Whispers rippled outward like waves. Eli stepped forward slowly. Captain Hawley approached too. Up close, Hawley towered over him. Where are you traveling alone to? Hawley asked. To see my dad? Eli answered. Hawley raised an eyebrow. And where is your father? He's already there. Hale's lips pressed thin. Funny, he said. Because unaccompanied minors are supposed to be registered. I'm not an unaccompanied minor, Eli said, his voice shaking. I'm 14. Hawley scoffed. You expect us to believe that? Eli swallowed. What's your full name? Eli Thompson. Hawley turned to the officers. Run it. One officer took Eli's boarding pass. Another stepped closer than necessary. Empty your pockets. Eli hesitated. I didn't do anything. The officer's voice hardened. Do it. Eli slowly pulled out his phone, his wallet, a folded photo. It slipped from his hand and landed on the floor. The photo showed Eli and a man in a pilot's uniform standing in front of an aircraft. Smiling, Hawley glanced down at it. Something flickered in his eyes, but not enough to stop him. Who's that? Hawley demanded. My dad, Eli said softly. Hawley laughed once. Sharp, dismissive. Kid, don't lie. That was when the words came out. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Get this kid out of here. Silence hit the gate like a slap. Then murmurs, gasps, phones subtly raised. Eli felt his throat close. He wasn't crying. He refused to. But his eyes burned. I just want to get on my flight, he whispered. Hawley turned away, already done with him. That's when a voice cut through the noise. Is there a problem here? The crowd parted. A man walked toward them, told come, wearing a tailored suit beneath a long coat. His presence shifted the air. He looked at Eli first, not with suspicion, not with doubt, with recognition. Son, the man said. Eli's shoulders sagged in relief. Dad. Captain Hawley turned slowly. The man stopped inches away from him. Captain David Thompson, he said evenly. Regional Director of Flight Operations. Hale's face drained of color. Thompson didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. I was waiting at the gate when I watched you accuse my son, he continued. I heard every word. Hale swallowed. Sir, there must be some misunderstanding. There isn't, Thompson said. You saw a black kid standing alone and decided he didn't belong. The officers shifted uncomfortably. Thompson turned to them. Did my son threaten anyone? No, sir. Did he break any regulation? No, sir. Then why was security called? No one answered. Thompson picked up the photo from the floor and handed it back to Eli. Geichi quadenti sechi, he said quietly. Full of witnesses. Holly tried again. You have to be careful these days. Thompson's eyes hardened. Careful of what? That question hung heavy. Hurley had no answer. Airport management arrived within minutes. Then corporate. Then HR. Hole stood rigid, sweat forming at his collar. Passengers filmed openly now. Thompson placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. Go sit, he said gently. I'll handle this. Eli hesitated. I don't want you to get in trouble. Thompson smiled sadly. Son, he said, this is in trouble. This is accountability. An announcement echoed through the terminal. Attention passengers at gate 47. But no one listened. All eyes were on Hale, as his badge was unclipped, as his authority slipped away, as the weight of his assumptions finally landed. Later, Eli sat by the window on the plane, watching the ground crews move like ants below. His father sat beside him. You okay? Thompson asked. Eli nodded. I just didn't think it would happen like that. Thompson looked forward. It always happens like that, he said. That's why we speak. The engines roared to life. The plane began to move. At gate 47, the crowd slowly dispersed, but something had shifted, because this time the kid didn't disappear quietly, and the sky didn't belong to prejudice anymore. The seatbelt sign chimed softly as the aircraft taxied toward the runway. Eli stared straight ahead, but his mind was still back at gate 47. The echo of Captain Hale's voice hadn't faded yet. Neither had the looks from strangers, some sympathetic, some uncomfortable, some pretending they hadn't watched a child be humiliated in public. His father noticed the tension in his shoulders. You don't have to pretend with me, Captain Thompson said quietly. Say it. Eli hesitated. I keep wondering, he said finally, what would have happened if you weren't there? The question sat heavy between them. Thompson exhaled slowly. That's the part that scares me too, he admitted. Because I know the answer. Eli turned toward the window again. Outside, the runway lights blurred into long streaks as the plane picked up speed. I did everything right, Eli said. I followed the rules. I stayed calm. I didn't argue. I know. And it still wasn't enough. Thompson nodded once. That's the lesson they never put in safety briefings, he said. Sometimes compliance doesn't protect you. Visibility does. The plane lifted off. For a moment, Eli felt weightless. Then the memory came back. The laughter. The way Captain Hale hadn't even looked at him after giving the order. Like he'd already decided Eli's story wasn't worth hearing. Do you ever get tired? Eli asked suddenly. Of proving yourself? Thompson didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was steady but older somehow. Every day. Eli looked at him, surprised. You're a director, he said. People listen to you. They listen now, Thompson corrected. But they didn't always. He leaned back in his seat, eyes unfocused. When I was a first officer, he continued, a passenger once asked if I was lost when I walked into the cockpit. Eli frowned. Lost. Thompson smiled without humor. I was in uniform. My name was on the door. But to him, I didn't match the picture in his head. Eli absorbed that quietly. So what do you do? Eli asked. When it keeps happening. Thompson placed a hand over his son's. You remember who you are, he said. And you make sure they don't get to decide that for you. Hours later, after landing, Eli watched as passengers stood, stretched, grabbed their bags. Some glanced at him. A few nodded politely. One woman leaned down and whispered, You were very brave back there. Eli didn't know how to respond, so he just said, Thank you. As they exited the plane, Thompson was stopped repeatedly. Staff members, supervisors, executives, apologies poured out. Explanations followed. We'll investigate. We'll review procedures. This doesn't reflect our values. Thompson accepted them calmly but didn't soften. Values aren't proven in statements, he said. They're proven under pressure. Behind the scenes, Captain Hawley sat alone in a small office. His uniform jacket lay folded on the desk. The walls felt too close. For the first time in decades, he wasn't sure what would happen next. He replayed the moment over and over. The hoodie, the boy's silence, the photo. He told himself he'd acted on instinct. But instinct, he realized too late, was just unexamined bias wearing confidence. A knock came at the door. HR entered. So did a mirror he hadn't wanted to face. Bafta back in the car ride home. Eli scrolled through his phone. The video was already everywhere. Comments flooded in. Some angry, some supportive, some disturbingly familiar. Why was he alone? Security has to be careful. They're playing the race card. Eli locked his phone. People are still blaming me, he said quietly. Thompson glanced over. They always do, he said, because accountability makes people uncomfortable. Eli was silent for a moment. Then Dad, yes, if I become a pilot someday, will this still happen? Thompson considered the question carefully. Maybe, he said honestly. But if it does, you'll know how to stand your ground, and you won't be standing alone. They pulled into the driveway as the sun dipped low. Golden light washed over the house. Inside, Eli dropped his bag and finally exhaled fully. Later that night, as he lay in bed, the sounds of airplanes passing overhead drifted through the open window. Instead of fear, something else stirred. Resolve. At Gate 47, prejudice had tried to ground him. Instead, it taught him how to fly higher. And somewhere in the sky above, the engines kept roaring forward. The next morning, Eli woke to the sound of a plane passing low overhead. He lay still, listening. For the first time, the noise didn't make his stomach tighten. Downstairs, his father sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched, laptop open. Headlines filled the screen. Pilot suspended after racial profiling incident at airport. Video sparks outraged teen targeted at Gate 47. Eli hovered in the doorway. Am I in trouble? He asked. Thompson looked up immediately. No, he said firmly. You're seen. That mattered more than Eli realized. At school later that day, whispers followed him through the hallway. Some kids stared, some avoided eye contact. One boy muttered, "That's the airport kid." Eli clenched his jaw and kept walking. In history class, the teacher paused the lesson. "Before we begin," she said, glancing at Eli, "I want to remind everyone that justice doesn't always come from textbooks. Sometimes it happens in real time." A few students nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably. At lunch, Eli sat alone until someone slid into the seat across from him. "I saw the video," the girl said. "That was messed up." Eli shrugged. "Yeah. My little brother flies alone sometimes," she continued. "I keep thinking, what if that was him?" Eli looked up. For the first time, he realized the story wasn't just his anymore. That evening, Thompson stood in front of a conference room filled with executors. "This wasn't a mistake," he said calmly. "It was a pattern. No raised voice. No anger. Just truth. You want fewer incidents?" he continued. "Change who feels protected by default." Silence followed. Then notes were taken, policies were discussed, training was mandated, but Thompson knew paperwork alone wouldn't fix what lived deeper. Later that night, Eli joined his father on the porch. The sky was clear, stars sharp and bright. "Do you think he knows?" Eli asked. "Who, the pilot? Do you think he understands what he did?" Thompson thought for a moment. "I think," he said slowly, "he understands what it cost him. Whether he understands what it costs youth, it depends on how honest he's willing to be with himself." Eli nodded. "I don't hate him," he said. "I just don't want anyone else to feel like that." Thompson smiled softly. "That's how change starts," he said. "Not with hate, with refusal." Above them, another plane crossed the sky. Its lights blinked steadily, moving forward, uninterrupted, and for the first time, Eli imagined himself up there, not shrinking, not silent but seated confidently, knowing exactly where he belonged. Because at Gate 47, something had tried to break him. Instead, it showed him his wings.